CCTV systems aimed at identifying the perpetrators of illegal dumping are set to be rolled out at 2 locations in Clare. The surveillance cameras will be installed at sites in Kilrush and in the east of the county in May as part of a pilot project. The local authority is set to open the process to public consultation in the coming weeks with a view to rolling out more systems at blackspots countywide. Quilty Fianna Fáil Councillor Shannon gave his thoughts to Clare FM's Daragh Dolan.
It's a welcome start for the rollout of CCTVs throughout the county, because I had my motion today, in response to the numerous dumping black spots that's in West Clare, and we just need as a council to get a handle on it. And if recording people in these going in and out of these particular byroads in these areas where there's issues with dumping black spots, we need to ensure that does not continue in the future. And as the council, we do give voluntary days and weekends at certain recycling centres, for mattresses and for they have open days for a lot of household waste and units, that electrical units and everything like that. So like the council are doing what they can. Everything, like getting rid of waste is very expensive at the moment, like because of the price of fuel and the price of everything. But at the same time, we do provide amnesties, and we do provide open days for people to get rid of, extensive household rubbish that they have acquired maybe in their garage that needs to go and that type of thing. But there's only a certain small percentage of people that are spoiling it for everyone and spoiling the countryside, and we need to make sure that that is stamped out and everybody pays their way, because 99% of people now have bins, and they pay their couple of €100 a year to get their waste taken away every fortnight. And we have a couple of companies in Clare at it, and they're very successful. And we just want to ensure that everyone pays their fair share.
And I think it's rare on this topic that you can have a bit of a good news story, but look, at least the local authority is rolling this out on a pilot basis. Now there's going to be public consultation. Yes. I don't know the details of that public consultation just yet, but I'm making the assumption, I'm making an educated assumption that it's going to ask the public where they'd like to see more of these cameras, or indeed some of these cameras. So it does look like we're definitely on the right track.
Yes, we're definitely on the right track, and there's a lot of groundwork done and behind the scenes over the last couple of years. And we just need to get the ones that are even up already activated, and the mobile ones that we'll have for different roads where there is dumping black spots. We need to ensure that the people who are at this unsightly situation, that they are caught and they are discouraged and prosecuted and discouraged from doing it in the future. And it's just about surveillance and trying to get people to do the right thing. The final 3 or 4% of people to do the right thing in the county and in West Clare. And West Clare, is such a beautiful area. It's just a crying shame that people throw bags of rubbish and mattresses and everything and anything, in secluded areas. And these nice country roads, and some of them are I suppose, because there isn't too many living in some of them in West Clare anymore, and they get an opportunity then to litter, the particular lock spit or a drain or something like that. And it's the council workers then are challenging them to come along and pick it all up and get rid of it and dispose of it properly. The council workers have enough to be doing besides doing that as well, because in fairness, there's many challenges in the environmental section of Clare County Council, and going around picking up rubbish, someone else's rubbish, is one of them, unfortunately. But we're hoping to reduce that, significantly if this CCTV comes into operation. There's no question of that.
And that was the Quilty Fianna Fáil Councillor Michael Shannon speaking with Clare FM's Daragh Dolan. And I'm joined now by Josefa Mc Elligott, Chairperson of Cratloe Community Council, a group that knows all about the ongoing problem of illegal dumping, particularly in their area. Of course, the council preparing to roll out CCTV surveillance at dumping black spots in the coming months, with hopes it will finally deter offenders. Josefa, you're welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Alan.
Just how significant is the problem of illegal dumping in Cratloe right now, and how long has it been an issue?
Okay, so it is a very serious, ongoing, recurring problem that we have here in Cratloe. As you know, it's a very, very pretty spot, and the higher up you go, the more views you can take in of the estuary, Clare, Kerry, Limerick, Tipperary. However, on these roads, these are the black spots. So you have the Cratloe Woods entrance, the Mealick Gate entrance, Gallows Hill, Woodcock Hill, all beautiful picturesque spots. However, that is where we find an awful lot of the illegal dumping.
And we know, even most recently, in January, we would have spoken with Councillor Pat Gorman about dumping at Gallows Hill, and those kind of spots seem to be targeted quite a bit, I guess, because they're a bit more out of the way.
Absolutely, and that's the problem, really. They seem to be able to get away with it in the very early hours and the late hours of the evening. These are quiet spots as well, and as a result, we find that these are the areas that people feel that they can just open their car windows, doors, or open their boots and just throw out their domestic rubbish, and larger items like couches, beds, mattresses, white goods of all shapes and sizes. It's a disgrace what's thrown in the hedges and the lands around. I mean, it's extremely, first and foremost, unsightly, and it's also so dangerous to human and animal health. It pollutes the land and the woodland and our waterways. You know, it's really a serious problem, and we do welcome the introduction of CCTV signage and cameras. Certainly it would work as a deterrent first and foremost, and we would hope, if it was to be rolled out in our areas, that we would see much less illegal dumping. And I suppose for those that continue to do so, that they would be identified, held accountable, and followed through and prosecuted.
Yeah, because I imagine, Josefa, you've mentioned all the picturesque spots around where you live, and that'd be a big attraction for people to come to Cratloe. But with this going on, that's got to be a bit of a deterrent to put people like that off doing so. And I'm sure for locals like yourself, it's extremely frustrating to have to deal with it.
It certainly is. Now, while we have a great community here, and like we would get photographs sent to us, or Councillor Patrick O'Gorman, or TD Cahill Crowe, and PJ Ryan is a fantastic community advocate as well. They have the necessary channels to make the phone calls, and to be fair to the council, they are superb. They will come out and collect and remove. But that doesn't come without a cost on them either. So I do believe going forward that this would be a fantastic deterrent to have rolled out.
So I presume hearing that it is going to be piloted in Kilrush and East Clare is great to hear, but I guess you'll want to see, following hot on the heels of this, obviously there's the public consultation in the coming weeks with a view to rolling it out at more black spots countywide. Certainly you've named a few places in Cratloe that I'm sure you and locals would feel qualify as black spots, and that they would be considered, and you might see this happen in your locality as soon as possible.
For sure. I mean, recently there, and we were very lucky that the woods had a lot of rain, but a rubbish bag that was left for collection was set alight. So that could have had devastating circumstances had that got into undergrowth or woodland. But we were spared on this occasion. But it's items like this are potential hazards for all concerned, as I said, you know. I mean, even our community alone here now, the Tidy Towns, they have their annual spring clean coming up here on the 18th of April. And that we all gather at the community hall at 10 a.m. We encourage all in the community, along with their families, to come out and help to keep Cratloe clean and looking beautiful. So we have a fantastic initiative going here. We have great buy-in from the different groups, be it the Woodland Group, the Tidy Towns, the Community Council, the Cubs, the schools, the GAA. But we can't do it on our own when we're looking at the amount of rubbish just being illegally dumped willy-nilly. You know, it's just despicable, really.
Yeah, I would imagine it's dispiriting to say the least when you're all trying to, make the area look its best and compete in tidy towns. It must be frustrating as well that certainly any time we've spoken about illegal dumping in Cratloe, like in other locations, unfortunately, the perpetrator or perpetrators tend to have covered the tracks pretty well. There don't tend to be any or much evidence of who it is who has left the rubbish there. There's no bills or anything, any correspondence in the rubbish that might give a clue as to who they are.
Yeah, it's very difficult to obtain any identification on many of the evidences that we come across. However, there have been a couple of successful outcomes, but it's only a small minority, as we know, and I think Michael Shannon, the councillor, said the exact same thing. It's the few that spoil it for the rest of us, and that really is a problem that we need to tackle going forward. You know, the schools, the beavers, they employ this leave no trace, and it's a fantastic mantra. And if everyone used that mantra, we'd have a beautiful county and country, you know. But hopefully now with the rollout of CCTV signage and footage and following up with prosecutions, that it will have a serious impact on illegal dumping.
Of course, GDPR concerns is what has held up the rollout of CCTV surveillance at dumping black spots up to this point. While I'm sure you and others in Cratloe understand that particular aspect, is it still frustrating that, yeah, we get the need for privacy, but this is going on for far too long, that's a hurdle that needs to be overcome or gotten around in some way?
Absolutely. And hopefully they will be able to do that. I mean, it needs prioritising at this stage. You know, it's an ongoing problem. It's the same phone calls are going on all the time about the same black spots. The locals can pick up local rubbish. That's a different issue. It's people driving through. You know, Cratloe is an unusual area in the sense that you can come to all parts of South East Clare through Cratloe and on back into Limerick and on to Shannon, Galway. So we're very open in that regard, but we do try to make the community and the centre of our community at the cross, the heart of our community, from a welcoming aspect for people driving through. But it is very frustrating to continue to see fly tipping, and rubbish from takeaways is a huge part of it too on the roads around Cratloe, generally speaking. And I think most people would comment on that in their areas too.
Josefa, do you believe CCTV will be enough to deter offenders? Like, can you imagine in the very near future CCTV surveillance being in those spots, at least some of them in Cratloe, and that you will see the number of incidences drop dramatically? Or do you think other measures are needed?
We would be very hopeful that we would see much less illegal dumping. However, for those that continue to do so, I believe having CCTV in place will help identify those perpetrators and hold them accountable and follow through with prosecutions. It has to be not just a deterrent, it has to be followed through with in order to make an impact. Otherwise, we're not getting anywhere, you know.
And in terms of the enforcement, we know there are fines. Do you think they're sufficient? Certainly an aspect of punishment, for want of a better word, that we've used before talking about illegal dumping in a number of spots around the county is naming and shaming. Is what is needed to put a spotlight on the person or people who are doing this, and that'll make them think twice about ever doing it again?
Generally speaking, I'd say yes to that. However, it would be up to the councils to decide on what level of fines. One particular point I'd make, though, is in relation to so-called legal waste collectors. We often find that there's massive amounts dumped illegally along the roads, and in that they may come across a name, but that person in good faith has paid that waste collector to take their rubbish. And for that, that's a very difficult situation, because you're approaching somebody who's completely innocent, who has believed they have paid for a service and now finds themselves
and in those instances, Josefa, I mean, whilst
surely
the person
CCTV will.
Yeah, but I suppose, is there, even if the person who has paid this person to dump the rubbish, they've done so believing the person is legit. Is there still an onus on them to some degree to make sure that they ask for the relevant accreditation and that they're aware of what accreditation they should have and whether it is legit or not?
I know. You see, Alan, I suppose that's just it. How would one person know whether it's legit or not? There's so many official pieces of paper going around that they can get their hands on and copy, and with printing nowadays, it's very difficult to tell legal from illegal pieces of paper, I think. I don't know what the council would suggest for these waste collectors to have them above board.
Josefa, how important is community involvement in reporting and preventing these incidents, or certainly the reporting up until such a point in time as Cratloe has CCTV surveillance for illegal dumping? How important is that aspect in trying to keep on top of this issue?
Well, I think it's down to community and the buy-in we have here in our community. I mean, the pictures will come through, a text will come through, we follow it up with our councillors, our TDs, and that's the way we're dealing with it on the ground here locally at the moment. And as I said, the council are very obliging. They come to the place of illegal dumping and collect it. But other than that, we have nothing else. It's just ourselves trying to man it.
Okay, well, we will watch this space. It'll be interesting to see how it goes in Kilrush and East Clare, and whether there's a rollout to other black spots. I'm sure you'll all have your hands up in Cratloe to be top of that list.
Lovely, yeah.
Josefa, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll speak to you again when you do have CCTV surveillance and see if it has made any sort of significant impact. That's Josefa Mc Elligott, Chairperson of Cratloe Community Council, with us on Morning Focus.